average of 120.
And Rick, of course, pretty interesting story, too. He went without a mark for the first 6 boxes a week ago and then caught fire. And Gary Casey caught fire late, too, to grab second place. So they will face 2 incoming challengers today. The final roll-off for this series held in New Hampshire. From Amesbury, Massachusetts, Keith Deguio, and from Brighton, Mass, Stu Bergman.
Okay, both bowls been with us before in one of the other shows. Keith averaging 120 and Stu is at 118.
All right, of course, keep in mind that Rick and Gary coming back for their second week. They're hoping to duplicate what John and Tom did, put together long streaks here, because you can keep coming back as long as you finish either first or second in total pinfall here on Candlepin Skins. That's one of the rules that's peculiar kind of to this format, so we like to go over them from time to time to review them for you in case you're unfamiliar with our rules here on Candlepin Skins. The bowlers compete individually, 1 box at a time, and each box has a dollar value assigned. That's the skin. The high score in each box wins that dollar value. If there's a tie for the high score in a box, then the dollar value carries over to the next box, and then of course the jackpot increases. And as I mentioned, the top 2 in total pinfall return each week. Rick Bourassa was tops last week. Gary Casey finished second. The first 3 boxes in each game are worth $20, $25 for the next 3 boxes, $30 for boxes 7, 8, and 9. And in each of our 2 games of Candlepin bowling here on the program, the 10th box is worth $75. 2 games coming up with our 4 competitors ready to go, and we will get the match started from Haverhill right after these messages.
Candlepin Skins is brought to you in part by Tri-State Megabucks. And now with Mega Cash. Choose your dream.
The final roll-off for today's show held at the Londonderry Bowling Center in Londonderry, New Hampshire. Keith Deguio was the overall winner with 5 games at $675. Stu Bergman finishing a close second. The other 3 guys just out of the money to get here on Candlepin Skins. Dwight Poland finishing 3rd. Rich Moran, a very close 4th. He was here earlier in the year. And Rich Clark finishing 5th. So it's Keith and Stu who did advance, and they are here and ready to go. Stu Bergman to fire first.
Well, missing the head pin, but leaving himself a triangle, 5, 8, and 9, and Keith drops 8, leaving himself the 5 and the 8.
And watch out for this pin in front for Stu Bergman. Oh, he gets around it, but can't carry the 9 pin. And likewise, Keith Deguio gets robbed, leaving the 8. Stu drills that piece of wood straight back for the 10 box, and Keith gets his as well.
So possibilities with a carryover with a pair of 10s. He's going to take a spare or some kind of mark between Gary or Rick.
Gary Casey, the left-hander, on the head pin, carries a couple of extras, and he'll have a shot at a spare. Rick Bourassa can't break up the split.
He wanted that 6 pin to move out of there. But Gary has not got an easy shot. Those 2 pieces of wood are way out in front of that 9 pin.
Let's see what happens here. Oh, boy. Well, we're going to have a carryover with 10 boxes here in the first. Another 10 for Gary, and Rick will have to take 8. Well, I'm sure Rick's not panicking because he was the last bowler to mark last week. He was open the first 6 frames.
Yeah, and he came out to be the #1 seed, the highest 2-game total with 4 bowlers last week. Once he got untracked, he was unbelievable, making some great shots and got in that zone.
$40 skin now here in the second after the carryover. Possibilities for a spare here for Keith Deguio. Oh. No. And Stu Bergman recovers with his second ball, but no mark there either. 10 for Keith, his second. And a 9 for Stu. Rick Bourassa. His brother Paul has also been with us on several occasions. Good first ball for Rick.
There's possibilities on both lanes here with the wood around, especially on Gary's shot. But let's see what Rick does here on the 5-8.
I was just going to say, there was a piece of wood behind the 5-pin, so it kind of deadened the 5-pin, didn't carry it back into the 8.
And no spare for Gary. There's a 10 leading for the skin right now. But that will create the carryover as Rick matches it. So still looking for our first mark here on Candlepin skins today. And the third box will be worth $60.
Very quickly, a $60 box early in the match.
Stu Bergman, who works as an accountant at Brandeis University, Waltham, Mass. Just missing the head pin. Stu really hasn't found the range yet on that first ball.
He's going to shoot at the 1, 3, 6, 7.
Oh.
And my. Keith, on the other hand, is going to shoot at the 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Uh-oh. Now it's even uglier.
I'm going to stop. I'm sorry, Keith.
Nice 10 for Stu Bergman. Oh, that's a pretty good 8 right there for Keith Deguio. Let's watch the shot by Stu. Stu needs to get the first ball working, but nice job on the conversion there for the 10 bucks. Gary Casey, who works in quality assurance from Leominster, Mass.
A little behind himself with that delivery, left the ball out to the left for that left-hander. Rick heavy on the head pin. He was going to shoot at the 3, 6, 10 with the 7, with the 4 pin, I should say.
Will we get our first mark of the day here somewhere? Not for Gary. There it is. Rick Bourassa takes the first skin of the day. Rick did that last week too. There were 2 skins around $150, $160 last week, and he won both of them. There's the spare playing the wood perfectly. To be exact, Rick won a $110 skin in the second game last week. He also won a $105 skin in the first game. Keith Deguio on the board with a strike.
His first mark, and it's a big one.
Stu still having trouble with that first ball. $25 box here in the fourth, and Keith Deguio with the advantage right now with the strike already up there. And here it is.
Doesn't take very long. Get rid of these 10 pins. 9 pin takes a little time, but finally goes.
Candlepin skins brought to you in part by Tri-State Megabucks, and now with Mega Cash, choose your dream. Tri-State Megabucks. Oh wow. Rick Bourassa takes that skin away from Keith Deguio to create the carryover.
And also a strike on spare for Rick. Gary looking for his first mark.
Little thin
Not
and
quite.
not enough. So it'll be a 10 for Gary. Gary and Stu still looking for their first marks. And this fifth box after the carryover will be worth $50. We have a slight delay here while John Mazzetti removes a piece of deadwood from lane 3, the lane that Gary Casey is about to roll on. He's going to be able to re-rack now. Stu Bergman getting a little extra mechanical work done there during the delay. He's been having trouble finding the head pin with the first ball. Let's see what happens here. That looks a little better, except for the leave.
Yeah, a little pull, but not bad. He's on the head pin. Keith, his bid for 2 strikes in a row. Doesn't happen. Leaves himself a real difficult spare leave.
Oh, nice bid. Almost. For Keith Deguio, he'll take 9 on his strike. Stu with an 8. And it'll stay a 9 for Keith.
So an 8 and a 9 up there, Gary and Rick. Getting down to my territory now. Put my bowling shoes on.
Oh, pocket hit for Gary Casey, crossing over into the 1-3 pocket. And that will be good enough for the skin for Gary, his first mark of the day.
Rick took it away from Keith, but he couldn't take it away from Gary.
Rick filling a strike here, and he'll fill it with 8. $10, and that brings us to our first break. Rick Bourassa in the overall pinfall lead once again. Keith Deguio second. Gary Casey, though, working on that big strike after the $50 skin. Here is that strike for Gary Casey. We'll get another look as we go on the way to break. We'll be back to Pilgrim Lanes in a minute.
Candlepin Skins is brought to you in part by Rockingham Toyota Dodge Nissan.
Promotional consideration has been provided to Candlepin Skins by Romano's Pizza and Subs. Primrose Street in Haverhill, located right next door to Pilgrim Lanes. Thanks to the folks at Romano's Pizza and Subs. Stu Bergman misses the head pin again. Keith Deguio will shoot at the 2 and the 7 for a spare, and he's got it. See if Stu can put something on the board. Nope.
Stu's in the same situation as Rick Bourassa was last week. Just couldn't find the range, and then all of a sudden he put it together. So maybe the same thing will happen for Stu Bergman.
There's one stretch last week where Rick Bourassa had 10 marks in 12 boxes. Here's Rick. Leading right now, but guys closing in on him. See if he can convert this. Oh, yeah. And that will create a carryover in the 6th with the spares for Keith and Rick. And Gary puts one up there as well. Spare on strike for Gary Casey. Let's take a look at Rick Bourassa's shot.
Nice spare there, and of course Gary puts a spare on strike.
The 7th box worth $55 now. And Stu Bergman gets the head pin this time, and also maybe gets something to shoot at. Possible sweep situation here. Boy, Stu really, he has a pin that could sweep over, but he's being blocked.
That's right. He's going to have to play the front one, and who knows where the ball is going to take off.
Oh, he got it.
Yeah, it's a great shot. A tough spare for his first mark of the match. 7 fill on Keith's spare. So Stu leads for the skin with that spare up in the 7th.
Which is worth $55, and here is that first mark of the day for Stu Bergman. And just like Rick Bourassa last week, he got his first mark in the 7th of the first game. Gary and Rick both working on spares here. Gary will take 6. Rick will take 8. Splits on both. And that's a skin.
Hang on.
Wait a minute.
Hang on.
Oh, yeah. Well, it would have been a skin for Stu Bergman. Instead, it's a carryover. As Rick Bourassa gets his 4th mark in 5 boxes.
That was painful. That was painful. I know how Stu must feel on that one. He saw, I finally got a skin, and all of a sudden that piece of wood came rolling from the far left-hand side all the way across for the 10 pin to create the carryover.
Making the 8th box worth $85, and Keith Deguio unloads the big ball, leaving the 7. No.
Right through the middle for Stu. The 1, 5, and 8. Just 3 on his spare.
Keith right at the 7-pin, ignoring the wood, gets the spare. He's marked 3 times in a row on lane 4. Oh my.
What an effort by Stu Bergman on the spread eagle plus the 9-pin.
And it will stay a 9. So the spare up for Keith. Leading for the skin. Here's that spare attempt by Stu Bergman.
Just enough to get into the 6 and 10, but not enough to come back for the 3-pin.
Rick Bourassa on a spare. Takes 5. Well, spare leads for this skin. It's an $85 carryover. Keith has one up there. Let's see if one of these guys can match it.
Oh, here it comes again. Oh. He's going to steal another one. Well, one more chance.
Down to Gary Casey here on the 1-7. No, so give that skin to Keith Deguio. His first of the day. And a couple of 9s for Gary and Rick. Rick is still the overall leader. He's withstanding the challenge here so far. Here's the near miss on his spare effort.
Off the wall for the 9-pin, and then that 9-pin kicks the wood and just slides in back of the 7.
Stu Bergman. 4 horsemen. Keith Deguio on a spare. Oh, big ball again. Second consecutive 9 drop for Keith. He's closing in on Rick Bourassa for the lead. Uh-oh.
Drop that one. You can almost hear it hit the lane prematurely. Usually I don't hear his ball hit the lane at all. And that time a little bit of thump. That ball go a little too soon.
And it's still there for a 9 bucks.
And a 10 for Stu Bergman gives him 86. And then you see 109 for Keith in the 9th. Will take over second place unless Gary can mark. And
right on it. Oh, big shot. Second strike for Gary Casey. And it is good enough for the skin, although Rick Bourassa gave it a good try. So that's a $30 skin for Gary. And a spare for Rick Bourassa, who I'll tell you is adding some excitement here again today. He's making it interesting.
Well, he's got 5 marks out of 9 boxes, 4 spares and a strike.
He's got pins rolling all over the place, and 10th box worth $75 now. Keith Deguio, who works at Leo's Super Bowl in Amesbury, where he's from, and he almost puts up a strike. That's his 3rd straight 9 drop. 4 horsemen again for Stu Bergman. Spare for Keith. And no for Stu. .96 opening game for Stu. Keith will stay up there to fill his spare. Remember, only the spare counts for the skin here in the 10th. The fill does not matter as far as winning the skin is concerned. But he wants to get a big fill to put the heat on Rick Bourassa here. And he finally gets the strike. Well, it comes 1 ball too late as far as the skin is concerned, but he gets 20 in the 10th for 129.
No doubt about that one. Just took a while for the 5-pin to go.
Keith threw 3 consecutive 9 drops and then the strike.
Rick working on a spare. Make it 6. Gary working on a strike. Remember, the spare is up for the skin.
No, possibilities here for carryover. First Rick. And no.
Oh, boy. Thought he had it, as did everyone else.
See if Gary gets his. No, he will not. So the skin for $75 goes to Keith Deguio. Rick Bourassa takes 10. Gary Casey does also. So Rick Bourassa with 134 has the overall lead in the match right now. Keith Deguio with the spare strike in the 10th, running second at 129. Gary Casey close by at 119. Stu Bergman hoping to get on track in game 2 at 96. And we will be back with that second game after these messages. In the first game here on Candlepin Skins, Keith Deguio, the big winner, $160 in skins, including that spare in the 10th that won in the $75 box. Gary Casey and Rick Bourassa also check in, and Stu Bergman looking for his first. So Stu will get game 2 started here. Stu and his wife, Karen, have had a new baby daughter since the last time Stu was with us. Allison, now 6 months old. Younger sister of 3-year-old Christina. And big strike again for Keith Deguio.
Keith has found the range.
It's a good first ball for Stu Bergman, too, and he converts it for the spare. So quick start for both of them here in game 2.
Huge strikes. Watch this. The pins just don't stick around very long.
This is a $20 skin here in the first. And similar leaves.
Well, we'll give the skin to Keith on that one because of the strike, though.
Absolutely. Nothing doing for Gary. Rick converts his for a spare. $9 for Gary Casey. Of course, 2-game total pinfall, very important. First and second place returns next week, and at the bottom of the screen are the cumulative 2-game totals. So you can keep track of how the bowlers are doing relative to each other. Keith Deguio on his strike, this time full on the head pin.
Stu Bergman needs a good fill and another mark to get himself on track, and again, only 4.
Seven on Keith's strike. See if Stu can convert this one. Nope. $9 for Keith Deguio. And an 8 for Stu Bergman. Well, Rick Bourassa now stepping up, working on a spare. Only a 9 leading for this skin here in the second box. Rick Bourassa, who works for Littleton Light Company. He's from Pepperell, Mass. And just 2 on his spare.
Well, 9 is showing for the skin. Well, Gary's going to have something to say about that.
Oh, Rick Bourassa making the high-risk play there and catching the head pin. Good shot. Uh-oh.
Oh, my.
Well,
hang on.
No, it didn't go. And Rick.
This is a pin he needs for the skin. And he'll have to wait because there's a ball in play.
Ball just sitting. Very rarely do you see that happen. A ball just coming to rest right on the pin deck. Rick Bourassa had to take a 7 box after his spare in the first.
Well, Stu and Rick are really rooting for Gary, and Keith is probably not.
Got it. For the skin, that's worth $20, that 10 bucks. So Gary is up to $100 for the day. $20 skin here in the third, and Stu Bergman, everything but the 5-pin. Best ball he's thrown all day. And look out, Keith Deguio, who's been throwing strikes here today, almost had another.
Thought he had another. He lost himself to 5-10. Stu Bergman for the spare.
Good confidence builder there, drilling that single pin in the middle of the lane for Stu. And Keith cannot convert the 5-10, boy. And after that first ball.
Yeah, not from lack of effort, that's for sure. He's 10 bucks gives him 36. Gary Casey bid for the strike, falls 2 pins short, leaves himself the 2 and 7. And Rick Bourassa leaves himself the back row plus the 6, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Oh, yes.
Gary gets the spare, causes the carryover.
And a 9 for Rick. Keith Deguio in the overall lead, but only by 3 pins over Rick Bourassa. They've separated themselves a little bit from Gary and Stu, but Gary and Stu are the guys who have marks going here.
That's
in the
right. The ones in 4th and 3rd place, respectively, and those are the ones that are going to be working on marks here in the 4th.
Another big first ball for Keith Deguio.
He even looks like he's got a lot of confidence up there right now.
Well, this time Stu missed the head pin, but a powerful 8 drop. Oh, Keith misfires. And Stu chops his off as well. Keith will have to take a 10. As will Stu. Keith Deguio was with us on singles back a few weeks ago. Lost a match to Dave Arsenault.
First Rick on lane 4, and then Gary will fill his spare. Oh,
wow.
5, 8, and 10. Looked like the ball was right in the pocket. No break there for Rick.
Well, let's see. A 10.
Pair of 10s are up.
Yeah, 10's carrying over right now for the skin. It's a $45 carryover at this point. See if Gary can make a spectacular shot here. Well, let's see. It's coming back. Not hard enough. So it'll be a carryover with 10s. As all 4 bowlers go open here in the 5th, or rather in the 4th, that means the 5th box will now be worth $70.
Still goes Keith and Rick and Gary and then Stu. But all within striking distance of the leader, really. 6 boxes to go.
Thin hit this time for Keith.
And an ugly leave,
Yes,
really.
indeed.
2, 4, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Ugly leave for both, and getting uglier for Stu Bergman. He chops out the 2-pin. Uh-oh. So does Keith. Chop out the 2-pin. Wow.
I think Gary and Rick are thinking right about now that, well, maybe we won't need a mark this time to win the skin.
Oh, nice out by Keith to get 8. Just a 6 for Stu Bergman. So 8 leads for the skin, Dan.
Makes you want to get up there, doesn't it?
$70 worth. Don't forget, tomorrow at noon here on the Winds of New England from Park Place Lanes, we'll have Candlepin Stars and Strikes, week number 2 of our annual mixed doubles tournament. Hope you're with us for that tomorrow at noon here on the Winds.
Well.
Somebody's going to get more than 8, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Right here, Gary's got the wooden back.
Oh, there's 8.
There's 8. And there's 8.
Big shots coming up here. Here's where a single pin of 2 remaining can be meaningful. Gary gets a 9. Rick has a chance at a 10 here, though, with this wood. And he's got it. And he takes the skin for $70 with that 10 box. So Rick Bourassa converting the 5-7 worth $70. And we will take a break at the halfway point here of Game 2 on Candlepin Skins with Keith Deguio in the lead by just 2 pins over Rick Bourassa. Gary Casey only 8 pins out of second. Don't go away. We are back on Candlepin Skins. On the left, Keith Deguio. On the right, Stu Bergman. Keith to throw first. Box number 6 worth $25. Uh-oh. That's the ball Keith was throwing earlier.
Gives himself the 5 and the 8. Clear shot at both of them. Four horsemen right.
Boy, Stu has had
Stu?
this 2 or 3 times at least. Oh, Keith let that one slip away. Nine for Keith Deguio. Make it 10 for Stu Bergman. Next week, our 2 incoming bowlers here on Candlepin Skins will be from a roll-off held in the Springfield area. And on that show next week, Dan, one of the great Candlepin bowlers whom we have not seen yet here on the Winds of New England will be making his first appearance with us. Jeff Atkins will be coming in next week.
I've known Jeff Atkins for years in the western part of Massachusetts, and as you say, great Candlepin bowler.
Tim Soucy from Vernon, Vermont will also be joining us next week. 10 for Rick Bourassa. That creates a carryover with 10 boxes. Because all of a sudden, marks are very difficult to come by here. A 10 for Gary Casey. That's 3 boxes in a row now that we've had no marks. Carryover, of course, with the 10s means that the 7th is now worth $55. Stu Bergman. Well, he'll shoot at the 3, 5, and 7 with wood. Keith Deguio, same leave he had last box, this time with wood.
Yeah, this time likes it a little more.
Stu gets his spare.
Could have trouble with the 8. No, not this time.
Well, there is still time, certainly, for Stu and for Gary, who are running 4th and 3rd, respectively, but it's still pretty close, as you see down at the bottom.
Well, if Gary and Rick were to not mark in this frame, it'd make it real interesting.
Gary is right in the pocket, though.
He'll have the 6 pin to shoot at.
Uh-oh.
Whoa, got a break there.
What a strange ball that was for Rick Bourassa. The carryovers, though, in effect with the spares. And there's another spare. Gary Casey converts the single.
With extra body English for Gary. Thought he might go by it, and all bowlers have spares up.
Here's Rick's shot. So the 8th box will now be worth $85, and all 4 bowlers will be filling spares.
Keith first. He's our leader by just the pin.
Oh, wow.
Oh, boy.
Keith put up 2 fingers when he threw that ball. He thought he was going to get a half whisker. And both Keith and Stu get 8 on their marks.
I like Stu's a little better, though. Than 7 and 8 for Keith. Piece of wood half in the channel. Now, if you hit that piece of wood that's hanging on the lane, that will be good. And that's what he did. Not enough to carry the 7, though.
Good try, though. Let's see if Stu can convert. No, Stu has not been able to put marks together today. 10 for Keith. And 10 for Stu. Well, it's going to get a little tighter here, as both Gary and Rick will be making up ground on Keith Deguio, perhaps, with marks. There's a 9 drop for Rick, 9 fill on his spare. And Gary Casey drops the same 9. They each have 5 pins for spares.
Big shot for both of them.
Especially for Gary, because he's the one who's out of the money right now. Rick is running in 2nd place. They both convert, so that's a carryover with spares. And we've got a pretty nice carryover going here. $115 now in the 9th. Big first ball for Stu Bergman.
Stu lately has been real close to that strike.
Oh, no.
Too far left.
Oh, almost. Oh, wow. We saw Tom Morgan make that shot a week ago. 10 for Stu.
We saw Tom Morgan make a lot of shots the last few weeks.
We just saw a lot of Tom Morgan.
That's right.
All right, Gary and Rick now stepping up, working on spares. 10's leading for this skin right now, but it's a carryover situation if nobody marks. $115 in this 9th box.
Yeah, that's nice too, but right now it's a real close for the total pinfall. Who's coming back? That's a 9 fill on Gary's spare.
3 straight 9 drops for Gary Casey.
And
wow,
Rick follows suit, leaving the 10.
Second time in a row they've both dropped 9 on spares.
They're closing in on Keith.
Gary gets his.
Back, Gary's passed him now by a pin.
Oh, Rick misfires, so that gives the skin worth $115 to Gary Casey. That was a 4-box carryover. And that means our last skin of the day will be worth $75. And you see the total pinfall situation very tight, especially with Gary Casey having that markup. Keith just 1 pin out of 3rd. He figures he's got to put a markup here. Drops 9. Stu Bergman needed a lot of strikes. And actually that wouldn't have been enough.
Well, will he play the wood or get the pin clean? He's going to play the wood.
Why not?
I don't blame him.
Yep. That would have been a very, very tough space to fit that ball in. Great effort by Stu. That would have been a very tough shot to fit that ball into the right spot for Keith, and he knew that he probably needed a mark. Well, he definitely needed a mark because Gary already has one up there in the 9th. So Keith needs a big fill now, too. Stu Bergman is out of it pinfall-wise. He will finish the day at 209. Could stay alive for the final skin if there's a carryover. Uh-oh.
Oh, boy, just
wow.
3.
So that will give Keith 243.
That probably will not be enough. We'll see.
Yeah,
all
any
depends on
kind of
what
a
Gary,
fill,
yeah.
right. Anything over a 6 will lock it up for Gary on the spare fill. Rick Bourassa to throw first, and big first ball for Rick, a little full, but carries 9.
We have a spare up for the skin, so one of these bowls would have to throw a spare to keep everybody alive one more time for this 10th box skin.
There's a spare, and there's the carryover, and Gary Casey's next pin will give him a lock on 2nd place, and there it is. $9 for Gary, 127. Rick Bourassa will stay up to fill his spare. And it's just a question of
Final score,
the
really.
final skin right now.
Final score for Rick, and then decide the final skin. But it'll be Gary and Rick coming back again.
Yeah, advancing as a tandem again. 122 for Rick Bourassa. So there are the final scores. Rick Bourassa at 256 will finish first. Gary Casey second at 246, and Keith Deguio just out of 3rd at 243. So now Keith and Stu will go right up there to settle the last skin of the day, as all 4 bowlers are still alive for this last skin. He forgot that there's still $75 to give away here. I'm sure they'll happily take it if they win it, though, especially Stu, because he has not won a skin today. And look at that, he drops 9.
$7.10 for Keith. Let's see where the wood settles down. He may take that 10 pin. Ooh, if that wood didn't catch it, he might have.
Well, let's see how Stu does on this single. Nope. That keeps Keith alive. Oh, it keeps him very much alive as he converts the spare. So Stu Bergman out of it, and Keith Deguio with this shot on the 7-10. aimed right at the 10 pin and got the wood to carry over for the 7. So it's going to take a spare to keep it going or a strike to win it outright. Gary Casey full on the head pin. And Rick Bourassa almost ended it with that.
Well, I would say that Keith and Rick are going to go to another box. Matter of if Gary's going to be with them. Oh, no.
Oh, nice try. But that leaves Gary out of it. Rick does continue with the spare. So it'll be Keith and Rick to stay up there for the last skin. This is the first time in a while we've had a second overtime frame.
Lane 4. First will be Keith. Oh, boy.
That's the same thing he did on his spare fill in the last box. Well, this could get interesting. This is head-to-head here for this $75. Well, good shot. Keith keeping himself alive. And, oh, my! That would have ended it. Well, Rick's had a couple of those go over today, but not that one. Keith takes 9, and now it's all up to this shot for Rick Bourassa. And he wins it with the 10 bucks. So Rick Bourassa won himself quite a bit of money here in the second game with 10 boxes. He takes the last $75 skin. That puts him over 200 for the day. And Rick will also be our #1 pinfall leader for the second week in a row. He will be back next week, so will Gary Casey, and we'll be back to talk more about it here on Candlepin Skins when we come back to Pilgrim Lanes after these words.
And welcome back to Pilgrim Lanes as we wrap it up here on Candlepin Skins. Not too much time to talk about this one because of the overtime, but Rick Bourassa and Gary Casey finishing 1 and 2 once again.
Yeah, Rick just kind of hung on the whole match, and then Gary put it together, the 7th, 8th, 9th box with 3 spares to ensure his victory. So.
All right, let's check the scores. First of all, the total pinfall of this one for the second week in a row. Rick Bourassa is our winner at 256. He had a total of 9 marks in the match. And as Dan mentioned, Gary Casey putting those 3 marks together in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, as both he and Rick Bourassa were throwing a lot of 9 drops there toward the end of the match. Gary takes second. Keith Deguio just 3 pins back in third, and Stu Bergman finishing 4th. We'll check the tote board on the skins total. Gary Casey takes the overall lead there, just $10 ahead of Rick Bourassa, who got the big last skin. Keith Deguio up there for $180, and Stu Bergman will receive $75 as a consolation prize, even though he didn't win any skins today. We will be back next week, of course, and as we mentioned, Tim Soucy and Jeff Atkins coming up.
Both bowlers that haven't been with us before, but I know them both, and we'll be in for some big scores.
They will join Gary and Rick. We hope you'll be back next Saturday. Don't forget, tomorrow, week 2 of our mixed doubles tournament on Candlepin Stars and Strikes. Until then, for Dan and the whole crew, I'm Doug Brown. Have a great weekend, everybody.